Welcome back, guys, to Forging a Stoic. Today we are on Book 10 of Meditations. This is the mini-series presented by Hazy Headed, where we're going book by book, analyzing the chapters, and discussing what I feel about them. So Chapter 10 was a very interesting one because he starts off with a banger of a paragraph. Marcus Aurelius states, "To my soul, are you ever going to achieve goodness, ever going to be simple, whole, and naked, as plain to see as the body that contains you? Know what an affectionate and loving disposition would feel like? Ever be fulfilled? Never stop desiring, lusting, and longing for people and things to enjoy, or for more time to enjoy them, or some other place or country, a more temperate clime, or for people easier to get along with, and instead be satisfied with what you have and accept the present, all of it, and convince yourself that everything is that gift of the gods, and that things are good and always will be, whether they decide and have in store for the preservation of this perfect entity, good and just and beautiful, creating all things, connecting and embracing them, and gathering in their separated fragments to create more like them. Will you ever take your stand as a fellow citizen with gods and human beings, blaming no one, deserving no one's censure?" Okay, wow, a lot to unpack there. I think it's almost like a coming to Jesus moment, except the ancient version with a Roman Empire. You know, he's saying, it sounds like it's coming from a bit of place of frustration. Like, when are you going to be this all good? When are you going to accept the things you can't control? When are you going to love with your full heart? When are you going to show that spirit side of you? And I can relate a lot to that. I think we people that are on a path of self-discovery, self-discipline, trying to avoid lustful thoughts, and anything that kind of takes you off from your path, this is going to be common. I think we as people often fall into these traps of doing the same things over and over again. But it's almost like this dichotomy, because he is acknowledging the soul, and he's acknowledging that there are things he wants to be able to grasp onto. Almost the dichotomy comes in this. It's like, okay, I want to be better. I want to continue to live by these realizations that I have. But it's like he's aware of things, but he's not always executing them. And I can relate a lot. It's like having wisdom or intelligence in a situation and not being able to apply them. And he really opens up with that frustration, like, when am I going to achieve goodness? When is my soul going to accept things? And what is love? What is affection? When am I going to do these things? And it's funny that he opens it up like a note to himself, and it's just very eye-opening on how that frustration can cultivate when you're trying to improve yourself. So I'm not surprised that he would say something like that. Now, 11 was the next one that I picked up on. How they all change into one another. Acquire the ability to see that. Apply it constantly. Use it to train yourself. Nothing as conducive to spiritual growth. And I think that's a perfect segue from 1 to this one, because 1 to 11, passage-wise, because it's important. It's important to know these things, but it's also very important to try to execute them. You know, how often do you read something, or, you know, in this age of doom scrolling, you scroll past a reel that you really relate to, or you learn from something from it, and it's so important to actually implement something. It can be very, very hard. It takes a lot of willpower, depending on how extreme it is. But it's important that spiritual growth is important. I think growth, all areas in life. I think if you cut it down to the simplest of atoms, and the almost like the basic objective of life is personal, spiritual, mental growth and creation. I think those two go hand in hand. As you're growing, you're creating a new person. You are when you are working harder, you're creating more opportunities. When you are following your goals, you are creating a better version of yourself. So at the end of the day, curating who you want to be is very important, and having that spiritual guidance that you honestly have to create yourself. I think a lot of times people think they can have just some guru explain it to them, or they read a book once and they're good to go. I think it all comes from you. I don't think you can cheat. You can't cheat it anyway. It's going to be grimy. It's not going to be fun all the time. When you're really in that mode of improvement, when you're really dialed in on that idea of wanting to do better, it's going to be tough. And I think it's a high risk, high reward. So keep pushing for it. Keep fighting for it. Next up was 28. People who feel hurt and resentment, picture them as the pig in the sacrifice, kicking and squealing all the way, like the man alone in his bed, silently weeping over the chains that bind us, that everything has to submit, but only rational beings can do so voluntarily. This one was a bit of tough love. I think he was saying that people that are resentful and have been wronged, and they are upset about it, he's comparing them to a pig at sacrifice. So Marcus is painting a very pathetic picture of people like this. And I agree. I think that's a little tough, Mr. Aurelius, calling someone weak a pig. But he's saying this: if you're going to think about all the misfortunes that have come upon you, and you're going to complain, and you're not, you're just going to continue to act a fool like that, it's no more pathetic than being a pig that's dying. It doesn't help anything. And that's one realization that we all have to have, and meditations highlights that a lot, ignoring the things that you can't control, and realize that it's all part of this nature, all part of this bigger plan. It's all part of inevitability. It's inevitable. It's nothing you can change. So complaining about it is just making you a weaker person. It's just making you pathetic enough to be acknowledged. But I really don't think there's anything good that comes out of that. Toughen your skin. It's simple as that. Next up was 32. That no one can say truthfully that you are not a straightforward or honest person. That anyone who thinks that believes a falsehood. The responsibility is all yours. No one can stop you from being honest or straightforward. Simply resolve not to go on living if you aren't. It wouldn't be contrary to the Logos. This one is very interesting. So what he is saying pretty much is the importance of being straightforward, the importance of saying how you feel, honesty. I think a lot of times, and I still do this, I'm a lot better because I'm aware of it now. When you're aware of a problem, it's a lot easier to fix, obviously. But a lot of times people want to sugarcoat the truth. They want to wrap it up in this bow and give it like it's a Christmas present. But the truth doesn't work that way. The truth is the truth. So it's important to express it as such. I think a lot of times people are scared, especially in this society, this weird fucking anti-utopia we have going on, where you have to walk around eggshells with everything you say or do, or an idea that you have needs to be dumbed down for the masses. Don't do that. Don't do that. Be one of the very few people free. A free mind, a free spirit, free to express yourself. I think it can be hard to be like that. But just remember, this goes back to the whole idea of meditations, that we're all going to die. So don't live your life trying to dumb it down for the masses or try to appease a bunch of people. Live your life full of virtue, full of honesty, Be straightforward if something's going on. That's the same with politics or philosophy, psychology, all this stuff, share your opinion. Don't be afraid to look like a fool, because at the end of the day, a lot of times when you're honest, it can come across foolish, because that's how much moral degradation has taken on our society. I think you need to speak your mind as much as you can. I think a lot of times when you do that, you find out that it's not as bad as you think. You might get some pushback, but if you stand firm in what you believe and you're surrounded by people that aren't ignorant, you'll have very good conversations. You might even change someone's minds, or maybe you'll have another perspective you weren't thinking. So I think we all need to be more adult-like. I think a lot of times when it comes to political belief, people are so quick to, oh, this fucking libtard, or oh, stupid, racist Trumpy. That stuff is so stupid. Why not have a conversation? Why not try to talk and try to figure out what the other person's thinking, or maybe expand your mind a little bit, or vice versa? So I think that's important. I think it's good to have a topic of discussion. And obviously Marcus Aurelius highlights that as well. Okay, well, thank you all. This is book 10. We've got 2 more of Forging a Stoic mini-series, 2 more chapters or books, aka books, chapters. So I just have to say I've been loving this experience, and we'll continue, and we got 2 more. I hope you all have learned something. I have certainly learned a lot. I'm hoping to forge myself a Stoic. Okay, thank you guys.